The basement door was open when I got home. I know I closed it. I always close it. It opens directly into my kitchen, and I keep it shut because of the smell that comes up from down there. Damp concrete, and something sour I've never been able to identify. The light was on. I stood in the kitchen listening. The house was completely silent. I rent the top floor of a duplex. The basement technically belongs to the property. My landlord stores boxes and old paint cans down there. Tenants aren't supposed to use it. I walked over and pushed the door shut. The air coming from the basement felt warmer than it should have. I locked the latch. 20 minutes later, when I came back for water, it was open again. About 3 inches. That was the first week of October. 2 weeks later, I was getting ready for bed around 11 p.m. when I heard footsteps above me. Not below. Above. The attic. Slow. Heel to toe. 5 steps. Then nothing. I sat up in bed and waited. No scratching. No scurrying. Just silence. The next morning, I texted my landlord, Dennis. "Does anyone go into the attic?" He replied almost immediately. "No, why?" I told him I heard footsteps. He said it was probably squirrels. He'd put traps up there in the spring. The thing is, squirrels don't walk heel to toe. A few days later, something smaller happened. I put my recycling bin at the curb Thursday night. 2 bottles, a flattened box, a couple cans. Friday morning, when I brought the empty bin back, there was a Dr. Pepper can inside, half full. I don't drink Dr. Pepper. I stood there holding the bin longer than I should have. Dennis has his own bin in the back. I didn't mention it. A few days after that, I came home and the hallway light upstairs was on. I never leave that light on. It runs up the bill and I'm careful about it. I did a full walkthrough before taking my coat off. Closets, bathroom, under the bed. Nothing was missing. Nothing was moved. I checked the front door lock. No damage. I started leaving my phone recording in the living room while I was at work. A week of footage. Nothing. Then one Friday I wasn't supposed to be home. I'd driven out to a friend's place for the weekend. About an hour in, she had a family emergency and we cut it short. I got back around 9:30 p.m. Dennis's truck wasn't in the driveway. That was unusual. I went inside and was filling a glass of water when I heard something below me. Not footsteps. A dragging sound. Slow. Rhythmic. Like something heavy being pulled across concrete. It stopped. A minute later, I heard a door close softly. I texted Dennis. "Hey, just got back early. Everything okay?" Delivered. No response. I called. It rang 4 times and went to voicemail. I walked around to the back of the house. His truck wasn't there. But the basement light was on. I could see it glowing through the small ground-level window. I knocked on my neighbor Pat's door 2 houses down and asked if I could sit there for a minute. She called non-emergency police. 2 officers checked the property. No forced entry. No signs of a break-in. Dennis called me back 40 minutes later. Said he'd been at his brother's place. Said old pipes can make strange sounds. He sounded calm. Too calm. 3 months have passed. Nothing else I can point to has happened. The basement door stays latched. But some nights, when I'm brushing my teeth, I swear I hear something shift below the kitchen floor. And every time I close that door, the air coming from the basement feels warm. The blinds next door were never open, not cracked, not tilted, closed. My girlfriend Becca found the house, small 2-bedroom on a quiet street outside town. We moved in the first weekend of September, ordered pizza, assembled furniture wrong, normal first house stuff. The house to our left was a gray ranch, dark green sedan in the driveway most days, blinds shut in every window. 2 weeks after we moved in, the neighbor came over. His name was Carl, mid-50s, friendly smile, firm handshake. But while he talked, he kept glancing past us. Not at the yard, at the house, specifically the front windows. After he left, Becca said, "That felt weird." I told her she was overthinking it. A few weeks later, she started working from home in the second bedroom. That room's window faces Carl's house at an angle. If someone stood in his front room and opened the blinds slightly, they'd have a direct view of her desk. One morning she called me into the office. "Look," she said. His blinds were open about an inch. Not enough to see inside. Enough to see out. We stood there for maybe 30 seconds. Then they closed. We installed frosted privacy film that weekend. While I was applying it, I kept glancing at his house. Blinds closed. But the feeling didn't go away. In early December, Becca started getting calls from unknown numbers. No voicemail, just calls, always between 8 and 10 p.m. She answered once. 3 seconds of silence. Then a soft exhale. The call ended. She blocked the number. Another one called 2 days later. Then another. One night around 9:15 p.m., her phone buzzed again. This time I answered. I didn't say anything, neither did they. But I could hear faint background noise, like television. And something else. A clicking sound. Slow. Rhythmic. Then the line went dead. The next morning, Carl's blinds were open again. Wider this time. We couldn't see him, but the angle told us whoever stood there would see straight into our living room. We bought heavier curtains. That Thursday, I came home from work and saw a padded envelope on our porch. No postage, no return address. Just Becca's first name written in blue ink. We stood in the kitchen holding it for almost a minute before opening it. Inside was a single photograph. It was our porch, taken from somewhere in Carl's yard. You could see our welcome mat, the potted plant. And through the glass of our front door, blurred but visible, was Becca walking down the hallway inside. The timestamp in the corner said 8:12 p.m. That was the same night we got the silent call. We called the police. They spoke to Carl. He denied everything. No cameras caught him placing anything on our porch. There was no proof. We installed a doorbell camera that weekend. The call stopped. The blinds stayed closed. 4 months later, we moved out. The house sold 2 weeks after we left. Carl still lives there. Same green sedan. Same closed blinds. And sometimes I wonder if the calls only stopped because he didn't need them anymore. The smell started about a week after the renovation downstairs stopped. Faint. Chemical. Like old plastic or fresh paint that never aired out. I lived alone in a converted building. Second floor, high ceilings, concrete under thin carpet. The apartment below mine had been under renovation when I moved in. Drilling, radio, tools scraping the floor. Then one day it stopped. No one moved in. The smell lingered for about 4 days. Then it faded. In January, I started hearing something at night. Not footsteps. A low, slow groan directly under my bedroom. Like weight shifting across wood. It happened between 1 and 3 a.m., 3 or 4 nights a week, always when I was almost asleep. The first time it happened, I told myself it was pipes. The second time, I checked the clock. 2:17 a.m. The third time after the groan, there was a soft thud, directly beneath my bed, like something set down carefully. I froze. I waited for another sound. Nothing. The next morning, I crouched down and pressed my ear to the floor. Silence. In February, I asked my landlord about the downstairs unit. He said renovation stalled because of permits. No one had access except him and the building manager. I asked if either had been down there recently. He said not for weeks. A few nights later, I heard the groan again. Then something new. A faint scrape, like fabric dragging slowly across concrete. It moved from one side of the room below mine to the other, then stopped. The smell came back that night, stronger. In March, I noticed something in my utility closet. Along the back wall, the paint was slightly different, smoother, newer. I pressed against it. The drywall flexed inward, just slightly, like something hollow behind it. I ran my hand along the seam and felt the faint outline of a door frame beneath the paint. It wasn't random drywall. It had structure. I texted my landlord. He replied 20 minutes later, said it was an old access door between floors, sealed during renovation. Totally normal. It's a reasonable explanation. Buildings get reconfigured. Doors get sealed. But that night around 2:40 a.m., the groan happened again. Louder, longer, and for the first time, it felt like it was directly under the utility closet. Not my bed, under the wall. The wall flexed once, softly, like someone leaning on the other side. I didn't move. I didn't check. I turned the TV on and left it running until sunrise. I moved out when my lease ended. I never opened the wall. I never asked to see the unit downstairs. But sometimes, when I wake up in the middle of the night in my new apartment, I expect to hear that slow shifting sound beneath me. And for a second, I can almost smell it again.